Hello and welcome to the MHG podcast. Life could be miserable, it could be dark, it can only last 44 days for some, but we're here to bring you a bit of joy and a bit of light each and every week. Once again, I'm Bradley, and I'm joined by someone who does last more than a couple of months. It's Stu. How you doing, Stu?
I'm not too bad. Yeah, no, I do compete against lettuces fairly well, which, can't be said of very many.
No.
But yeah, that was an intriguing few days in UK politics. And when I say intriguing, I mean completely shambolic and a national disgrace. But it was interesting.
Yeah, it's like watching a car crash, but the car was just full of clowns, and it's kind of funny, but then you realise it's still quite devastating what's happening.
I know. It's awful, really. But I mean, you've got to take some entertainment out of these situations, as they are pretty grim.
I did see a headline that summed everything up. And this is not a headline that should be possible. But apparently, CBBC's Dick and Dom and H from Steps are calling for a general election. That's a headline in the UK today.
Oh, Jesus. The intelligentsia weighing in at last.
Just ridiculous. What makes me laugh as well is obviously there's the whole, and we'll come to this down the line, maybe not this week, but in a couple of weeks. But obviously Graham Norton has been receiving a lot of abuse for trying to speak a little bit of sense by saying, don't ask me these questions, ask the people who are involved, ask the people who would be considered experts, to then be shot down, abused and hounded off of Twitter. Essentially cancelled by the people who claim there's cancel culture that ruins their lives. But anyway, that's for another time. Just very quickly before we get going, do you remember a couple of weeks ago I told you about our trip to Anfield and the disaster that it was, followed by the amazingness that it was?
Yes, indeed.
Well, yeah, Edith's now internet paper famous.
Yeah,
is that a step up from Twitter famous, or is that a step down these days? I don't know. It's good though.
Yeah, for a kid. Yeah,
it's good. It's really good. I got to speak with the Liverpool Echo in the week, and I just really wanted to make sure, sort of like, it was such a lovely story, not for our point, but just to see like a footballer do that kind of thing, and totally sort of, again, someone who is like well regarded within the team and is a star in women's, like in her team in women's football, and to get that, want to see them get recognition, because usually, again, you only hear the negative side when it comes to footballers a lot. So yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, I read that article. It was really good. And she, unlike the team really in general, come across as like proper people.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean. You feel like they're real human beings who, they understand their community, their place in the world, their influence, and do something good with it. It's really, really heartwarming. Whenever I read any of that stuff, it's always really good. And the women's game's got, so much to be proud of, I'd say, in this country. Yeah.
Well, even recently, like the other day, Arsenal and Chelsea women are both involved in the Women's Champions League. And Arsenal went to France and beat Lyon 5-1. Now, consider how much of a big deal that is. Lyon are the best women's team in the world, bar none. They are amazing. They are, the men's equivalent of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Man City, Liverpool, and Arsenal are just like a really good English team. But it always seemed to be there was this massive gap. But they went there 1-5-1, which is amazing for them. And there's loads of footage again of the Arsenal players afterwards going up and sort of actually getting personal with the crowd and stuff like that, which is lovely to see. It is still lovely to see that so many of these players are still so grounded.
Yeah. No, it's fabulous, and it's how it should be, and hasn't been for such a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's really good. And it's good, they're playing the game in the right way.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
You feel something coming on?
Kind of. I feel it in my water.
I know. Do you know what else can be played in the right way?
What's that?
Video games, Shu.
Video games.
And what have you been playing?
Well, to start off, I've been playing one called Chasm, The Rift.
Not Chasm.
Or Chasm, as Brad says. Yeah.
Dave and Chasm, yeah. That's a great name.
Chasm.
Someone make that happen.
Yeah, it really should. Yeah. But it was a code very kindly gifted to me by a generous person. It was you. It was Brad. And yeah, it's a boomer shooter, self-described. So it's in the mold of, well, kind of like Doom, but more like build engine games, which for anyone under 30 is going to be a complete kind of buh. But they're kind of Duke Nukem 3D and Sin, if you've heard of that one. Games like that, made in build engine, a competitor to id stuff at the time, and at the time we're talking like 95, 96, 97, that sort of era. And yeah, you kind of, you go around levels, you shoot stuff. It's very brown. You have a lot of shotgun use. You have to find keys, unlock doors, make your way around a map that way. And yeah, it's all right. It's a bit strange. I'm like, I don't know about its history. I get the flavour that it might have been a thing back in the day as well. I'm not sure. It might have been a lost Euro shooter. But from what I played of it, it's fine. It's really hard to kind of talk about it and not be mean. I don't want to be mean because it's nice enough, but it very deliberately puts you back in that time. It's not incorporated anything, so far at least, that you'd expect from a modern version of those kinds of shooters. So yeah, it's like, I suppose you could say it has a jump button, which is fairly unusual for games of that time. You can use that. It has been useful in a couple of places, but in terms of like overall quality, it is leagues behind Duke Nukem 3D. So, and that's a game that's 25 years old. What it does is very basic, and it's solid enough. The level design's all right. It's not bad. At the moment, it's very kind of all on one level. There's no verticality. But about an hour in, it's all right. It's solid. I want to see if it goes somewhere. It's got enough pieces to put together a decent throwback shooter that doesn't do anything special. Deliberately doesn't do anything special. It's just whether it manages to pull those things together as the game goes on.
Yeah, it's when I first saw it, it's one I was semi-interested in playing, but as we've spoke about, possibly on air last week, or definitely off air, is I'm cutting back the amount of games I've been playing or trying to play because I just can't keep up and I'm just not getting to enjoy any. But it kind of reminded me a little bit when I first saw it of someone's taken a little sprinkling of Doom, a little sprinkling of Duke Nukem, a little sprinkling of Quake, and for some reason there's a Gordon Freeman-esque character in there as well that seems to appear on screen in the trailer, which is really weird. It kind of looks like it's definitely a game that just went these games are popular, so let's do our own. And it looked like it was doing a competent, if not spectacular, job.
Yeah. I'm reading the about this game notes. It says, having its roots in 1997 and developed in Ukraine. Do
you feel bad about slagging it off now?
I feel awful about slagging it off, yeah. The first Eastern European boomer shooter ever made. So it does sound as if it's just been a revived remaster of a game from that era, and that would explain a lot, really, because it's very competent. There's no kind of clipping or bugs or breakages, and that sounds like damning with faint praise, like when you see a bad actor and you say, oh well, the lighting was great, or they
got all their lines right,
didn't fall over, but it's fine. I think if you're into that kind of stuff and you want to take a trip back and you're interested in the history of the FPS, that's probably where its true value will lie for people. Anyone coming into it as a new experience might be a little bit perplexed.
Yeah, I mean, one thing obviously we've been doing a bit more of late, and whether this is because of like the time we're living in, the cost of living and stuff like that. 18 quid. Yes or no? Are you going to find value in that, or is it something you should really be waiting for a sale?
I think 18 quid for a game that looks from the text that I've seen to be 25 years old and remastered. I think that's very much too expensive. I think you'd have to be a niche of a niche of a niche to be confident and happy paying that. I think you'd probably be a family member or somebody who's very close to them as a team. And again, it sounds like I'm being really mean, but that's just me. That's just the way I speak. No, I'm not trying to be mean.
When you can get the original Doom, as we spoke about on Notepad these days, but also on literally every system I think ever released has now got Doom on it, the original Doom. You can get, they're putting out Doom 2, Doom 64 and everything across any system they can. You could get all the Quake remasters, even original Quake, stuff like that, the Duke, you could get all those. It's the reason I think this possibly isn't well heard of or well known back in 97 or sort of like after that. I don't know if it got released, but there's a reason for that. Just a straight up remaster isn't going to do it. Now, I'm still curious and I still do fancy giving this a go at some point, because you saying it's fine suggests to me that if there wasn't a Doom or a Quake or a Duke Nukem and this came out, it would just be a genre-defining game. But it suffers from the fact there are 3 games it's based on, shall we say, that are already out there and do their jobs better than this.
Well, yeah, and I would go further as to say, if you played this in 97 and you'd played Doom in 93, was it, or 92, you'd be like, something like that.
I was skint then, so let's say I played it in 95. Let's just cover the bases.
Yeah, so you pick this up 2 years after you played Doom. I think you'd still be like, but Doom was much more sophisticated than this, and this is 2 years newer. So even accounting for its age, I think for its time, it's not as it really isn't as sophisticated as the first-person shooters that were coming out then. Not that I've played so far. I can't be definitive on it, but the point you make on price is really important as well. It's like, yes, we live in this, capitalist era where people are being ripped off, and you don't want to rip people off. You want to make sure that they have the right amount of money. But if you've got like 18 quid in your hand and you've got a Steam account, the amount that you could get for that, is just unbelievable. And in the real world, Chasm is competing against games that you could get for a £5 that are a couple of years old. They're absolutely amazing. Or you could put that 18 quid into a subscription to Game Pass or something and get access to a ton of brand new games all over the shop. It's really hard to justify that price.
And I'm just doing the maths now. You could get Doom, original Doom. I know there is one company trying to rip you off.
Always.
You can get original Doom and original Quake for a tenner, pretty much, just over a tenner combined.
Yeah.
You can get Duke Nukem 3D 20th Anniversary Edition for 15 quid. If you wanted to go that route. So, but you could get 2 of the all-time greats for less than that. I think pricing matters when it comes to remastered re-releases, etc., etc. If this had, I don't know. I don't know what they could have done. Could they have modernised it in any way? But then it's not the same game. I don't know. There's plenty, as you said, there's plenty you can get and have change left over. That does the job that this looks like it does, which is a shame, because I say it looks like it runs well. The gameplay looks cool enough that it's one I do still fancy playing. But I'm thinking Humble Bundle or something like that.
Yeah, and I think that's right, because I think that there's the positive side of this, to put the positive spin, is that they will have done some market research, I'm sure, and gone that we will make more money putting it at a higher price to catch the whales and the people who really, really want to play it, and then dropping it to $5.99 quite soon than we would if we priced it at a tenner from the start and then gradually reduce the price. It will be very deliberate. They'll know that they're after, 5,000 sales perhaps at 18, and then they'll get another 5,000 sales at £5, maybe more than that, maybe 10,000 sales, and that'll have been figured into their planning. So I don't resent them putting that price up, but it does lead to both me and you going, wait for a sale, for these things.
Yeah, but that again, that's the well. I can't. Whereas I used to not really care about prices, and I would never really judge a game on its price. We're not judging this based on its price
No,
as such.
no, not at all. No,
it does matter now more than any time. I think in my lifetime, it matters.
It does. Yeah.
Because trading in's not as easy anymore. I think also, there's places on the high street now as well to be able to get games. I know this isn't a high street based game, but everything's online now as well, so it's very difficult to try a game and take it back. So everyone is being a lot more careful with their money. What I do like actually, so one of the bonuses it says it has is you can get the original DOSBox version as well.
Yes, I saw that. It gave me the option when I fired it up. Yeah.
So technically, this could be playable on an Embedded device or something like that.
Easily, yeah. It's very scalable as well. So the highest graphic settings are still what you'd consider to be extremely low potato PC stuff, but you can lower them even further. So I would imagine it would run on practically anything.
Also, I don't know if that sounded really sort of yeah, okay, whatever you say. But it's just because I noticed I was reading the game features, and just to let you know where my mind is, the first 3 words of the game features are blow off monsters. Now that's a game.
Yeah, it is. Now you see that I would buy.
Yeah, for £1,800. Yeah,
exactly. I'd buy it at a high price.
But yeah, that's RoboCop. Yes. No, so I buy that for $1. What's I buy it for a higher price? That's from something.
Resident Evil 4. The
yes,
Merchant. Yeah,
that's it. I'm confusing my genres there. My mediums.
Your
my medias.
Pop culture.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, okay. I'll. It's on my wish list anyway. I think I'll wait for a bundle or when it inevitably drops to £3, £4, £5.
That sounds fair to me. Yep.
So moving on. We're getting a good range of games this week, I've got a feeling, because I've been playing a game called Trifox, which is it's kind of a mascot 3D platformer, but it's also a twin stick shooter.
I'm intrigued.
Right, so let me get it. It's all right. It's fine. Again, I think that there's a theme coming up. It does everything competently. It's got good twin stick shooter mechanics to it. It's got half decent platforming. The problem I've got with it is that it doesn't need both. It should have been one thing or the other, not both.
Right.
So it's got parts of me that make it think it wanted to be a homage to Crash Bandicoot. Then it's got other bits that remind me of what's that? Assault Android Cactus. It wanted to be a bit like that as well.
Oh, right, yeah.
In elements, and it does both of those things, not quite as well as either of those games, so to speak. But it's perfectly fine at what it does, and I've been enjoying my time with it. You've got different classes of character you could have out. So there's like a warrior type, a mage, and somebody does like the fixing and stuff like that. What are they usually called? Engineer. That's the
Engineer.
one.
Yeah.
And then you can basically different abilities you can pick up. You can do your own builds and things like that. And it's fine. It's fine at what it does visually. It's visually where it actually gets me. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I don't like the character design. But I like the world design.
Yeah.
It feels like it's almost been designed by 2 different committees, in a way.
Yeah.
The character designs are cartoonish but gritty, which doesn't fit with the almost Acme style level design.
Right, yeah.
And it's just kind of really weird. Like, it's like maybe this was going to be, it was going to be a darker game, but they went, let's make this a bit like almost like how Borderlands was originally going to be to what Borderlands became, but they just forgot to sort out the character design.
Yeah.
But overall, it's a very competent game, and I'm enjoying my time with it. It's fairly fast paced. It's fairly simple controls. With the only exception being the opening tutorial levels, you have to go through these sections that are like a cave that take you from one section to another, and they go completely dark, and it's like, what? And it's just, it then changes the angle where you're walking, and it just throws my brain a bit. But that could just be me. But overall, it's a decent enough game that's... I've played better. I will almost certainly play a lot worse.
Yeah.
And it runs fine on the Steam Deck as well. I've not had any issues on the Steam Deck.
Well, checking my notes, I kind of see what you mean about the graphics. They have some nice character to them, but they could be improved. Like, the graphics engine's really nice, but the designs could be a bit more unique, maybe. But yeah, it looks okay. It's like, would you recommend if it was like one to pick up when it was fairly cheap?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think this is I would say, look, this is not a kid's game, but it'd be a great one to give to an 8-9-year-old to play as it's something other than FIFA or Call of Duty or Fortnite. Look, here's another genre game for you, where it's not overly difficult, but it's not insultingly easy either.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But yeah, bundle. I honestly think at the time, again, talking about prices, you can get this for, it's currently on discount, but its standalone price is £15. It's only just missing, I think, its sweet spot. If this was 10 to 12 quid, I would have gone, do you know what? It's worth a try. There's plenty of game in there, and I'm enjoying it. There's nothing I can really complain about with it, aside from the overall, the character designs. They freak me out. They make me uncomfortable. Everything else, there's collectibles in it. The Crash Bandicoot homage in there to some parts is well done, but doesn't make you go, oh, this parts will just be Crash or anything like that. If this had been one or the other, I would have gone, get it. Go out and get it. It's a great platformer, or because they've developed the platform inside, or it's a great twin-stick shooter because they've just developed the twin-stick shooting side. The fact it merges them both would make me just say, have a look. There is a demo. Try the demo and see how you get on. And if you like the demo, I think the sale price is worth getting it at.
All right then. Yeah, sounds fair enough to me.
That's what's next with you.
Well, it's a continuation, and it's a continuation because I've got about 100 hours on it now, and still not quite finished because I can't put it down, and that's Cyberpunk 2077. So I've been playing it on the Steam Deck most of the time, switching back and forth between that and my gaming PC, just because it looks great on the Steam Deck, but it looks phenomenal on a PC. And yeah, it's been so good. I was really, really surprised by it, and it's kind of obscured by these clouds of, disappointment and hysteria, and also the developer being a bit dodgy and all of this. But when you actually get to sit and play it, and play the 1.06 release with the major bugs fixed and it running as best as it probably ever will, it's really good. It's really good. I mean, it's got the level of kind of the abstraction that you want in a action RPG to make it kind of like, yes, it's dice rolls, and yes, it's sophisticated, but it also fits well into an open world environment. It does that. It blends that really well. But what it really excels in, and if you've got to explain why it's so good to people, it's the world. It's so uniquely put together. It feels like a real place. It's so stuffed with detail, and it's so, each area, it's as unique as a city would be, because landmarks, and it's not like copy paste box buildings between some standout handcrafted ones. Oh no, it's like the real world, that there are buildings that do look the same, but you expect that because they're built along certain principles in certain areas. And then there are unusual and unique things like the Arasoka Tower, and there's this huge decrepit defunct shopping mall outside of town, and there's the Badlands, which has got loads of wind farms and solar panels, solar farms, and it's just got all sorts. And it's not just, you don't feel like, okay, they built a texture, they made this massive texture, and then they started plonking down individual little bits to make it feel a bit different. Imagine like, the Outrun map with like, all these distinct landmarks, but really it's just, it's just a basic thing with these landmarks thrown in. Not at all. Almost the entire map feels handcrafted. And when you do that, it's much easier to make the individual missions that you go on really quite unique. And the variations that you can it kind of splits it into, and I promise I won't go on forever. I'll limit myself to a couple more minutes and then I'll shut up. But it sort of divides them into categories that are not immediately apparent. So it does things like, obviously, assassinations, rescue missions, data theft, data hacking, stealing items, stealing vehicles, taking vehicles to a place, assassinations, killing assassins, destroying groups, destroying parts of groups, going after high-ranking individuals. I mean, this is just the stuff off the top of my head. And if you put all of those variants, and there are loads more, into an environment where everything is, not everything is completely unique, but there's so much uniqueness, you're just hitting a different feeling all the time. And it's got this brilliant day-night cycle that's incredibly atmospheric, and you're doing things at different times of the day. And it just feels like something I've never really encountered before. I've certainly never encountered it in something this big. So you'll get a linear game that has lots of unique things in them, and you can approach things different ways. Splinter Cell Chaos Theory comes to mind. And you'll get open world games like Skyrim or Elden Ring that have that scale and scope and some amazing individual moments. But you don't get them both mashed together, where you have so much individuality and customized experience going on all the time. And it's just amazing. And I completed the main game and then immediately went back in to mop up stuff. And I've just been doing that and mopping up stuff I hadn't done because I don't want to put it down yet.
Yeah, it reminds me what I've played of it. There's certain games that do this, and it's something I want to see actually brought into any big open world game in terms of like major one where they've got the resources. When you create a world that is as unique and visually striking as what you get in Cyberpunk, or even the New York recreation in the Spider-Man games, the different levels in the Yakuza games, I want to see a virtual tourist mode put into those games where you take out any combat, you can run, but it's realistic speed running, but you generally walk around or drive around at a speed limit, and just take in the sights and the uniqueness and the stuff you'd likely miss as you're playing the game. I'd love to get that option just to spend time in these worlds. Like Yakuza almost gets you to do that with like the arcades that are there and things like that. But it's still not quite having that tourist mode. And Cyberpunk is one of those where I'm still not quite sure about the game itself because I've not really started it fully yet. But I want to spend time in that world. I just want to spend time in that world because it's something amazing. It feels very Blade Runner-esque, but it's not trying to be Blade Runner at the same time. You piqued my interest even more with that because it's kind of, I had my suspicions that there was a lot of love and attention put into crafting the world. And what I like as well, it's condensed compared to the likes of The Witcher and Skyrim and things like that. It's a condensed open world. So, it's not just emptiness for miles and miles and miles. It's actually got stuff everywhere, which is what I want. Which is why Yakuza, I think, is still the best open world game. Any of them is the best open world setting, in the history of video games.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those. You want to really experience it. And that handcrafted feel in a comparatively small environment really comes through.
Yeah, no, I will get back to it one day, hopefully. It's one I do fancy. Give it another go.
It does definitely need more accessibility options. It's going to be way down their list of features to put into the game, but hopefully they will.
Fingers crossed. It is, yeah. It would be nice, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So, moving on from Cyberpunk, in-depth worlds of amazing neon signage and amazing graphics, to another version of amazing graphics and one of the most visually impressive styles I think I've seen in recent years, and that's the HD 2D graphical stylings of Triangle Strategy, also seen in Octopath Traveler. So regardless of anything, Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy are beautiful looking games, absolutely stunning. But as we spoke about last week, I've been trying to get into strategy games and turn-based games of late because they're slower paced and just better for me in terms of being able to take my time and see what I'm doing. Generally, I've been crap at them, but I decided to go from Gears Tactics to Triangle Strategy, which is like explaining to someone what 2 plus 2 is and then giving them, you know, the equation for quantum mechanics and going off you go. Work that out. Jumping between the two.
Yeah.
It's really good. It is designed for people who are definitely used to playing strategy games. That much I will say. It doesn't care much for onboarding or teaching you what the mechanics are. Like the first battle I went into, it was kind of just, you're in a battle now. I was like, what? I've just sat here for half hour listening to story. I'm now just in a battle. Why? What? And it's not like, oh, you know, you can move like this and do this. It's kind of like, here's the enemies, you got to beat them. Okay. Help. Please. But I have learnt some bits through playing sort of like Gears and Advance Wars and Into the Breach and stuff like that. And it's good. It's really, really good. It's more difficult than those, 100% for sure. You've really got to consider your positioning on the board properly, how your attacks can affect enemy attacks and what it could do in terms of your spacing with them, and how you could like double up on attacks or how you could be doubled up on and really build up to get like amazing things going, or be totally decimated yourself. And those battles are amazing, and part of me wishes the game was just those battles, because there's a lot of talking in these games, a lot of story, which is obviously I think why a lot of people are into these, because they are story games. And this one feels very, I'm probably going to be shouted at from all corners here, but it's what I kind of imagine, like it's a bit like House of Dragons thinking, whatever that is. What's that? That's the Lord of the Rings.
The Game of Thrones one?
Yeah, it's a bit Game of Thronesy. There's houses and everything. And it's kind of like, is this meant to be a bit Game of Thrones? I don't know. But there's like these 3 different powers. You always get this rock, paper, scissors type effect going on. You kind of got to come together to protect from the other one. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. That story's kind of in there, but not. There's there's a character called, like, he's like the Duchy of Arsfrost. So that stood out to me. Couldn't tell you what they do in any way, shape or form, but it's the Archduchy of Arsfrost. So, yeah.
They need to have them all in that theme. Maybe like, they need like a chill bum and a cool cheeks, and their hero, their house champion, could be like Gluteus Maximus.
Yes, and he's made a big boob memory. But yeah, you kind of do things, and there's like, it's like talk. Move a bit, talk. It's like trying to do a podcast with me. Essentially, there's lots of talking, and then eventually you get to do something.
I'm out. I don't like that.
But it's kind of like it's got a politics system in it, but like literal politics, not in a keep politics out of my games kind of way. So you've got like this voting system in there, and that is defines how the game progresses or what sort of person you are and your faction is, and so on. And the further you go, I think the more frequent battles become. But yeah, the battles are really, really interesting. And you can do, and this is what I like, and remember I spoke about I wanted Gears to do something like this. In this, you can kind of go to a tavern as well. Or, is it a tavern? Yeah, I think it's a tavern. Basically play a battle. The idea is that you're doing it as a way to test yourself. And they're called like mock battles or something like that. But you get to go and do those to your heart's content, which is really good. And you get to test different strategies. And I've kind of been spending a lot of my time just pissing around in those because then I could just have fun with that. And it's really, really good. It looks beautiful. And I did get a code for this, and I'm glad I got a code for this because I can't see myself spending 50 quid on this game. Not because there's anything wrong with it. Let me just get that out. I think it's an amazing game, and for people who have been playing these for years, it's perfect. I think they those sorts of people love this game. It's obviously why it's managed to get a PC port recently, because obviously it's got a lot of good positive vibes. But I would have, if I'd have spent 50 quid on this, I'd probably be less inclined to actually want to stick with it than getting a code for it, because I would have just gone, I can't believe I spent 50 quid on this, and all I'm doing is listening to people talk and occasionally getting to do stuff. I'm not very good at the game. Why did I waste my money? I know this because a few years ago I done the exact same thing with Octopath Traveler.
Yeah. The thing is with these, they do, I don't know, I loved Bravely Default.
And this is by
the same guys.
Yes.
Yeah. Although I did skip a lot of the dialogue. The thing is, right, so, unbeknownst to many, I have an English literature degree. So it's bizarre because I've been in IT all my life, really, since leaving uni, but my degree is actually in English literature.
And listening to you talk, you wouldn't believe it.
But yeah, no, I kind of know how things should be constructed, and the problem with these games is they don't understand how to create a good script. Like, they think, okay, well, we got a good plot. They got a plot that will sustain us, and it's really got some clever moments in it and some good characterization and all this. But a story has to have a beat, has to have a proper flow. It has to have a proper structure. It has to end in a nice way. And I mentioned this years ago on the podcast, that there's a real problem with TV as well. Not all TV by any stretch, but some that's trying to be like quote unquote prestige TV, and it takes a good idea and then it spreads it over not just like one long season, but like 6 seasons. And it's just like, no, you can't sustain it. Like, they have a pace, they have a rhythm. And the problem I find with a lot of these RPGs is, there's just too much talking. There's just too much talking. It just doesn't support the game. And like, you think back to, stuff like the Phantasy Star games, they had the right amount of plot. You need an introduction, you need something that drives you forward, and you need to have plenty of action. And if you overwrite it and have too much backstory that's unskippable, it just becomes boring.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. And what scares me about these games, and this goes for the Final Fantasies as well and all that, is how important is the story? Can I just go press fast forward and push through and just get to the exciting stuff? Now, weirdly, I originally felt more comfortable doing that with Gears. I don't know if that's because it's like, I'm going, Triangle Strategy is a highbrow game. Gears, it's just Gears. No one cares about the Gears. But I found myself more intrigued by the story of Gears the more I've played it. And if someone would just tell me the story's gubbins and you can just skip through, then great. That's me done. Because especially with the ADHD, if you're giving me 30 minutes between actually playing the game, different parts of the game, that's me gone. You've lost me.
Yeah.
I'm not taking in the story anyway. And even though I'm not taking in the story, I'm still scared about missing anything in case it's important. Why should I care about saving this person, or why do I want this person in? And it does worry me. Whereas again, Gears I think does it really well. But XCOM possibly does it as well. Apart from your 4 main characters in the game, everyone else is disposable. Now,
Right.
not to brag, I haven't lost anyone yet. So, I have played on easy. I played on really easy. But, I've not lost anyone on Gears yet. So, but they feel disposable, which is good because you go, right, as long as these survive, that don't matter. Whereas with this, I don't know. Are people disposable with it? Do they need to all survive? Is it important? And that then gets like, I'm doing that and I'm worried about that rather than actually the strategies and going, right, I don't want to bugger this up. So I'm not trying things. And they feel like they don't want you to experiment, but do want you to experiment at the same time. And it's like, that's me. That's not the game because they're made for a certain job, like a certain type of gamer. They're made for a certain type of person. That's clearly not me. But part of me goes, can they make a light version? It's like Final Fantasy 15. They made a light version of Final Fantasy 15 for, was it Maxima? No, mobile, whatever it was. They made that took out a bunch of stuff and took you more like the beat to beat really quick and used like chibi characters, which I thought was a really cool idea. Now again, the hardcore fans didn't like it, but I get that. But then I'm going, could you just do something that takes me beat to beat that has any of the important votes? Sure, keep in there, but just have a quick overview, like previously on between battles. Give me something like that as an option in the game or as a separate game. You've got me. That's me in because I can take that. Tons and tons of reading is a struggle. Even Disco Elysium, even though it speaks to me, doesn't make me read, is a struggle. Because there's times where there's like almost like an hour and a half between major beats in that game.
Yeah.
And that can start to lose me. This is, it's very difficult for me to play. But it's brilliant. That's the thing I want to get out of this. It is brilliant. And whilst I'm not probably going to finish it this year, possibly won't even get through it all next year, it's one I'm going to go back to once I've finished Gears and possibly something else. Because at the moment, Gears has found that sweet spot of about half an hour a day to do one mission, maybe two if I feel like it, and then play whatever else I've got to play. It's definitely got that sweet spot because the cutscenes are short. Everything's short that lets you get to play. So again, it's got that, and Triangle Strategy doesn't have that. Whereas Gears is Spot the Dog, this is War and Peace.
I like Spot the Dog.
I do.
Yeah. The thing is, that's it. There should be no separation really between like highbrow art and lowbrow art in games. Well, what I mean is there should be a separation, but there shouldn't be any kind of class distinction. They should just be enjoyable. People shouldn't be criticised for liking one and not the other. But they should all be respectful of people's time. And bloated games aren't. And it's just like, you see, Triangle Strategy, most people, it's going to be like 25 to 45-year-olds. And, they don't have any time. You've got to be respectful. If they want to play a game like that, it's a bit cerebral and a bit, it's going to take up a lot of mental energy in the evening. It can't be like an 80-hour epic, or it shouldn't be. It's fine that one of those exists, so that a couple of them come out a year, but everything? No, more respectful. Shorter iteration cycles. And anyone younger than that is going to be playing like Fortnite or Amongst Us or whatever they're called. They're just going to be not playing it. So
no. What I will say, and to the credit of this as well, I don't often do this with games, but I did check this out on How Long to Beat. Because that often puts me off games when I see How Long to Beat, and I don't want to play a game based on its like time it takes to play or anything like that. But I did check this because I was thinking, if I'm in for like 150-hour epic, I'm not sure how much I want to play now or whether I can spend. It's 34 hours apparently for the main story, and 50-ish hours for the side quests as well. So It's not bad in terms of length. That feels doable to me. I mean, again, with Gears, I'm already 14 hours into that and I'm still on chapter 2. So I don't know how many chapters are in Gears Tactics for a start. But yeah, so it's one of those that goes like, this is why I've not dismissed it and just gone, do you know what? I'm glad I've tried it, but get in the bin. I am going to go back to it. I just don't feel I'm ready yet because I'm still experimenting on understanding these games properly. That I'm not going to get much out of this game that it wants me to get out of it. But everything about it has made me go, yeah, this is a damn fine game. This is clearly one of the top in its genre. And again, it's just what does keep me there is just the visual style as well because it is beautiful.
Yeah, they've really nailed a new aesthetic in that one. It's fantastic. Yeah, really like it.
But yeah, that's it for me this week. Apart from a bit of Gears 5 as well. I played a bit of an action game while I could. That's really cool. Better than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And a game came onto my... Actually, just to point out, it's not one I've played. It's not one I've even applied for or anything like that. And it's one that's come out of total left field for me. Is Warhammer 40,000. What sort of game do you think it is when I say Warhammer 40,000?
Well, I know they do a lot. They do some FPS, but they often do strategy games and stuff.
Okay.
But is it not one of those?
No. We've got a side-scrolling adventure game.
Oh, really?
Like, reminds me a bit of... I'm trying to think, sort of like... do you know we had that thing where we had sort of like the mercenaries type things, like, and you could change, you run along, run and gun as you go right, left to right and stuff. It's kind of one of those with a cartoony style, but it's also PvP as well.
Really?
Yeah. It's just like, it's a single player adventure. It's online PvP. It's just not what I expected. It popped up on emails a couple of times. I was like, Warhammer. I don't really do Warhammer. And it's only that I sort of like, I've been doing some tactics. Wonder what this latest Warhammer is. I looked at it and went, well, that's not tactics. What on earth is this? It's just really not what I'd expect. It's like cartoony a lot.
So what's it called? What's its subtitle?
Sorry, it's Warhammer 40,000 Shooters, Blood and Teeth.
Good name.
But Shooters is spelled like a Cockney. It's SHOOTAS, Shooters. Blood and Teeth is spelled TEEF.
Nice.
I don't like it. It's getting good positive vibes. So
nice.
I've added that to my wish list, and I will probably pick that up at some point in a sale because it just looks insane.
Yeah, I think I might have to get that myself. Looks pretty good. Sounds pretty good.
But yeah, moving on from video games, just what I do. I was going to say I'll touch on this next week. I want to touch on this very briefly now. Oh boy, the transgender issues at the moment are a mess. It's essentially I'm going to call them out. J.K. Rowling is not even pretending anymore. She has decided she's gone off the deep end completely, more so than Glinna has. She's been going off about, again, like bathrooms and the dangers of transgender women, and notice she only goes off about transgender women, by the way, mainly, very rarely the transgender men. But anyway, she's been kicking off, and then I don't even know what led to it, but there's an interview with Graham Norton, and they're asking him what he thinks about the issues and stuff like that. And Graham Norton turned around and went, "Look, you don't need to ask me. It's nothing to do with me. I can give you my opinion, but I'm just a celebrity. You don't need my opinion on this. What you need to do is go and ask transgender people who know this, who live this, who are affected by this. Go and speak to them, the experts, and get their opinions on this. You don't need me." Basically, it's just when any celebrities that are putting their oar in essentially shouldn't be and need to just leave it alone. got retweeted by a few people. I think Billy Bragg retweeted it and went, exactly this. This is a really sensible response to trans issues when you're not involved in it. To which J.K. Rowling then responded and said, Billy Bragg, Graham Norton are essentially giving the okay for rape and death threats and stuff like that. Fuck knows how that's happening, but she done that, and then basically her army of vile, abuse-laden knobheads basically went after Graham Norton to the point where he's had to quit Twitter and cancel himself on social media because he can't handle the abuse that's being laid at him just because he said, let's talk to people who actually know what it's like to be trans or who are actually, you know, deep in the trenches who are suffering the abuse. He basically asked for common sense and calm and has been hounded off of social media because of it. And when asked how does she live with herself with stuff like this, by the way, how does she sleep at night? On a big... when I look at my royalty checks, I sleep soundly at night. And therein is the issue we have with J.K. Rowling. And it's just so disappointing to me.
Yeah, it's terrible. And it's a real mental... It's a mental health issue. Definitely. You know, we can't pathologise it. I don't know what is wrong with people who slip into this, but it's definitely a type of mental illness that should be looked at. And, you know, obviously because of that, feel a little sorry that people slip down this slope. But the thing is, there's still a decision being made in there. You know, a decision to be problematic and to set your Twitter swarm on people is abysmal. And, you know, the last couple of weeks has been... you know, Kanye West going increasingly bananas and being increasingly right-wing and anti-Semitic. You know, the man who has put up with racism his entire life is now kicking down at a different subsection of people. How, you know? Oh, unbelievable. And the worst thing is like you mentioned, it is that swarm thing of you can get people to barricade... to bombard another person, another celebrity with your followers. You know, I think Ricky Gervais certainly used to be guilty of it. I don't know if he still is, but just tacitly asking them to cancel another person by bombarding their social media and ruining their lives. And it's just absolutely disgusting. And she's fallen farther and farther into this trap over the years, just doubling down. It's really bad. It's terrible behaviour, and you can't believe that people can get away with it, but there you go. That's Twitter for you.
And they do, time and time and time again, they get away with it.
Yeah.
Because they're untouchable. That's the sad truth of it. They are untouchable because you can't go after J.K. Rowling. Like, I will continue to use her as an example. You can't go after her legally. Because she is clever. I'm not going to deny that. She's very bright. And even though she won't directly say to her followers, go and attack the trans activists, she knows how to word things and she knows how they will react. There's that side. She knows what she's doing there for a start. And then on the other side, even if you did catch her out and you was able to go after her legally, you can't afford it. Because she could just throw, billions of pounds worth of lawyering at you to the point where you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what are you meant to do? You can't fight back. You can't defend yourself. You can't defend others through fear that you're going to end up in some kind of litigation or your life's going to be made a living hell. Yeah. And it's just so sad to see. Which is why I'm still so appreciative. And I think it's still amazing to see the likes of Steph Sterling continuing to be themselves on videos and online.
Yeah.
Unashamedly so. It's brilliant. Because if I was in Steph Sterling's shoes, I think I would have gone back into my shell by now. Either come off YouTube or whatever, or probably detransitioned just for the easy life. But I know for a lot of trans people, detransitioning isn't the answer. The answer, unfortunately, is a lot darker than that.
Yeah.
And regardless of what your thoughts are on the trans issue, and I hate saying the trans issue because it's not an issue, but obviously it's what it's being labelled as. Whatever your thoughts are, whether you think it's right or wrong, whether you think trans people should be allowed in sport, whether you think the bathrooms should be open to everyone, whatever, you should not be forcing someone, another human being, to want to take their own life. And that's essentially what these people are doing.
Yeah.
They're actively celebrating people being suicidal. And that's wrong. That's just so wrong. It is so horrid that that's what they're doing. And they celebrate. They won't actively have a party or etc., but they are celebrating the fact that that's happening. And I despair. In a time when the world is falling to pieces politically, people could barely afford to eat, and stuff like that, we get these horrible excuses for human beings being like that. But yeah, no, I know that was a massive switch in tone from talking about games to, again, just like what's happening in equal rights. It's just, I don't know. It's ridiculous. But anyway, back to some more positive news. Just before we go, I just want to get this out before I forget. We are changing a tad here at MHG. On a personal level, I'm struggling with my health and everything. Both my mental health, my physical health, the lot. I'm struggling to be able to keep the site running as a full website. Trying to get written reviews done, written articles, etc. And they've pretty much tried to be the cornerstone of what it's built on. I can't do that. All I can really do, and this is mainly thanks to Shu, is because he does all the editing on the podcast, is get the podcast done. So, over the next couple of weeks, you will see the site is going to change, some pretty much focusing on the podcast, and any articles, reviews, whatever that are written by any of our volunteers or even myself will be there, but they'll just be as added extras. They're not going to be the main focus of the site. We are becoming purely now just a podcast. It's where I think for Stu as well, he can tell me I'm completely wrong. I think that's where his passion is with all this as well, is the podcasting side of it. For me, it's been, it's been the bit that I've been enjoying the most. And it's a good time because we are 3 years old. I didn't realise. I can't remember if I mentioned it last week or not. But just discovered we are 3 years old.
Yeah. That's my mental age, funnily enough.
Yeah. I know. I've not even reached that yet.
Yeah.
And, as I said before, I set mental health gaming up to essentially stop myself from killing myself. Which is, I'm going to laugh at that because it's ridiculous. But it's worked. It's, it gave me another purpose. My family and everything mean the world to me and everything. But it gave me something else to focus on, and it's done its job. It's got me back to a better place. And what I do still want to do is I want it there for everyone else, and we've got the Discord, and we still talk about stuff. But as some of you may have noticed, a few weeks ago we started talking more about how we just want to bring you a bit of joy in your week for the best part. So we'll talk about the games on the most part and try and have a fun podcast. We will still talk, as we did today, the transgender issues. We'll talk politics when it's important, and mental health issues when we feel it's important. But a big part of helping you with mental health, I think, is an escape. And hopefully we do give you an escape. We do bring you a bit of joy, and we don't drive you further down that dark path. I know listening to me for an hour can have that effect, but I hope it doesn't. But yeah, no, that's all I want to get at. So when you see the site, it's going to change. It's mainly, we're pretty much, I would say, 90% podcast moving forward, and I'm going to update the site design when I get a chance, etc. So listen, if you want to get in contact, use Bradley at mentalhealthgaming.com. Ask any questions, and or any comments we'll put on the website. We'll mention them on the podcast, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, thank you. It's been 3 wonderful years. This sounds like I'm about to retire. It's not. Hopefully 3 more wonderful years coming up. But yeah, change is coming.
I like change.
Yeah.
No, I do. I'm not just saying that. I don't, not change for change's sake, but I like it when things keep fresh, and I think it's a good direction. So yeah, no, I'm excited about it and keep pumping out the good content.
Now, because we are focusing only on podcasting, or mainly on podcasting, you never know, I might even do some other bits with the podcast down the line as well. Add some extra shows that I could do, just shorter ones. Again, maybe do specials about certain games that we feel deserve longer discussion. It gives us more that we can do as well, because usually it's like, I'll write something about this and I never get round to it. So again, we might expand that down the line, but first and foremost, we will continue to have weekly podcasts every week. I don't think we've missed a week yet.
Nope, we haven't.
No, didn't think we had. The podcast is younger than the website, by the way. Hence the reason there's not 156 podcasts. Just in case anyone wanted to bring that up. The website started first and then the podcast came about. But yeah, 3 years old. We're going to be going for a while bit longer. We've never missed a week on the podcast. We hope that continues. And do you know what, Stu?
What?
I'm going to shut up now.
There we go. As usual, everybody, follow us on all the socials. Engage with all of our media. As Brad says, we're changing the website, but there's still loads of content on there. Also join our Discord and chat about any subject you like, including mental health. But in the meantime, have a good week, stay safe and stay sane.